The information presented in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not meant to be a substitute for clinical mental health treatment. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988 or head to your nearest emergency room.
Welcome to the Black People Die by Suicide 2 podcast, where we discuss all things mental health with an emphasis on suicide in the Black community. I'm your co-host, Jordan.
And I am your co-host, T-Kea.
This is your first time tuning in. Welcome to the podcast. If you're a returning listener or viewer, welcome back. Man, let's start with this check-in.
The infamous check-in.
Yeah, so if this is your first time listening, we do a check-in every episode where we really try to tap into what we're feeling, what we're going through, to really give, I guess, a voice to our emotions. We are not fine. We are not good. What does fine stand for, T-Kea?
Feelings I'm not expressing.
Yes.
I sound like a professor, but yes, very much so. So we want to encourage everyone to really check in, like, what thoughts are you having? What feelings are you having? And I always encourage people to go look up the feelings wheel, just because it has so many emotions. And a lot of times we actually think we're feeling one emotion, but when you go look at the feelings wheel, it's like, that's actually not what I'm feeling. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great tool because I like that it breaks down like the sad, angry, and then it's like a tree and it kind of further explains like different things that fall under each umbrella. So, you should definitely check that out if you haven't seen one. T-Kea, I'll let you go ahead and start.
Dang. Okay, how am I feeling? I'm feeling a mixture of things. I would say excited about like what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say a bit overwhelmed because I'm juggling a lot of balls in the air. So that's a bit of it. But then the other part of it, very proud of myself because I was talking to Dr. T and I was telling her about like all that I had going on, and I was like, yeah, I've been doing well for the most part with my sleep and working out and all this stuff. I was like, I just feel like I got my life together. And she said, you sound like it. If my therapist said I got my life together, then I'm going to hold on to that one. So, yeah, I think despite all that's going on and, having moments of being overwhelmed, I think I'm being positive and optimistic about things. And as you know, I just got some, a bit sad news. And I think that for me, I have just also been allowing myself to just give permission to feel any emotions that I'm, experiencing. So, yeah, it's just like a combination of emotions. I don't feel like I'm dealing with one set thing.
How am I today? My body is going through it right now. So for the past month, I've been I've been more anxious than I was prior, but it's been manifesting itself in like compulsive eating and a lot of sugar. So I'm trying to wean myself off of that.
Sour Patch Kids?
Man, Sour Patch Kids, cookies, all kinds of things. I don't know why. I've just been eating for comfort, which is not it's not good. My relationship with food tends to be kind of wonky anyway. I'm usually either overeating or undereating. But for the past month, geez, I've been eating a lot. So I'm trying to wean myself off. So if I'm a little bit more low energy than usual, my body really is like looking for the sugar right now.
Are you going through a withdrawal right now?
It's a lot right now. But I know it's for the best. I feel better in terms of, like even though my energy is a little bit low, I don't feel so I guess I was just amped up on sugar for the past month and I didn't realize that until now, but
You have the zoomies?
it really didn't manifest itself as the
Oh,
zoomies. Like, I don't know, I was really on one from sugar. Like sugar, do they consider sugar like a drug? I feel like it has the same effects.
Well, that's ex our guest. She's a
Oh,
nurse.
yes, yes. So that's what's going on with me today. We're really excited today though because we have a special guest. Um, we've talked about her son in a prior episode.
I feel like a few times.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Hmm.
But we have her here today to tell us about his story and about herself. So we are joined by Dr. Rossalyn Thyssen. She's a registered nurse, college professor, mental health advocate, and founder of the Trey Thyssen Have a Heart Foundation. Dr. Thyssen, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon. I guess I feel calm and patient, but it's the calm. Like I don't know if it's the calm before something exciting or like the calm before the storm. So I'm at that. I'm just at that. We're gonna wait and see.
Gotcha. I understand how you feel. Let's roll into these questions.
Yes. Well, before we roll into the questions, Rosalind, Jordan asked about sugar being a drug. This has nothing to do with mental health, but you are a nurse, so I feel like you can shine some light on how sugar impacts our body.
So, the definition of drug is anything that changes the metabolic processes in our body. So, anything can be a drug. It's just something that whenever we ingest it, something in our body changes. So, if that's sugar for you, sugar, everything is meant to, it has a role, but anything that's over moderation can cause some bad things to happen. So, sugar, yes, can be a drug. So our body needs sugar to use it as energy. But when we have too much sugar, then the body only uses what energy it needs. So if we have that excessive sugar, then it becomes a problem. So to answer your question, because I'm a professor and I start to over explain, but to answer your question, yes, sugar can be a drug if we don't use it in moderation.
Yeah, it has not been moderate consumption over the past month, but that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna get back on track. Thank you for enlightening me. I thought that was the case,
You
but
probably got a hit of dopamine when you had the sugar.
probably so. this is this is not pleasant, but again, I'm just happy that I can get on the right track and stop doing that because it's something I've done compulsively overeating on and off through the years. So I appreciate that education.
Yeah, so we're going to jump right into this interview. So I'm excited, as always, to talk to Dr. Rosalind because Dr. Rosalind has really been supporting us. I mean, we haven't been in existence for that long, but Dr. Rosalind was the first one I think that reached out to us on Instagram and shared the story of her amazing son. So for today's topic, we're going to discuss losing a child to suicide and the impact of bullying. And so, Dr. Rosalind, I know we shared a little bit, or Jordan gave a little intro about you being a college professor and a nurse and all of that. But we just want to give you the opportunity to tell, people who are listening or watching about yourself.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and reintroduce myself.
Hmm.
Because I wear many roles, but this one is my most transparent role and the one that I'm most proud of. So, hi, my name is Roz. I had 5 kids and one died. So, Trey was my baby boy. He was my second born, but he's my baby son. And I always tell people his name is Trey. It's heart spelled backwards. That's why I have my heart glasses. And, whenever you think of hearts, you think of something that's like caring and loving and forgiving. And I'm still working on that, Trey. Just compassionate, just all of those. And he was all of those things. I'm not just saying it because he was my son. He really was. But Trey was a victim of bullying. And when I say bullying, I mean all forms of bullying. So verbal, physical, purposeful exclusion, cyberbullying, just all of it. And ultimately, the bullying was not fully addressed for several reasons. And one morning, right when it was time for the kids to get on the bus, we couldn't find Trey. Um, and then my oldest son started screaming Trey's name and screaming my name. And that's when we realized that right before it was time for them to go on the bus to go to school, Trey had taken his life.
I think it's so important that when you talked about bullying and how it was addressed, maybe not fully, um, how ultimately it impacted his mental health so much to the point where he's like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Can you talk about like more a bit more like how it started in terms of like what was his first interaction in terms of bullying, what the beginning of that was like before he even got to that point?
So the bullying didn't start until he got to middle school. And middle school is a rough time. It's a time of transition. Your body's changing, your hormones are changing, everything is just different. So his first encounter was he had signed up to play soccer, and he had got his brand new soccer ball. Was excited to go and try out, and brought his ball to school. And the football team took his soccer ball from him and threw it over the fence. So he came home. He's like, Mom, the football team, they took my soccer ball, they threw it over the fence. So I went to school, talked to the football coach, talked to the soccer coach, and they said, it's a football team. They just do things like that. We'll get the ball for him. And that was kind of that's it. So I talked to Trey, and he was like, yeah, I know, they're jocks, but it's fine. I'll get my ball back. The next incident, Trey called me and said, Mom, this boy, he spit in my face. And I said, Trey, that is gross. Did you tell the teacher? He said, yeah, we were in PE, and we were at the water fountain. I got my water. The boy behind me got his water, and he pretended like something was so funny, and he spit in my face. So we had to address that issue. And when the boy spit the water in his face, Trey pushed him. And so the dean of students told him, well, you should have kept your hands to yourself as well. The first thing you should do is come tell the teacher. You don't try to handle that yourself. So, and Trey is a very literal child at times. So he was like, well, I got in trouble. So, I'm just, next time I'm just going to go tell the teacher. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to tell the teacher. He had little minor things. Like one day he told me, he's like, Mom, everybody was invited to a party and I didn't even know about it. And I was like, okay, so, are you okay? Like, how does that make you feel? It's like, I guess it doesn't bother me. And then he was like, can we have family time? Can we have a family movie night? And I was like, sure, of course. Because, every Friday we had movie nights, me and the kids anyway. And he was like, thanks. I love you, Mom. And then the next year is when, Trey called me when I was teaching my class. I was in front of like my class of like 100 students, and Trey texted me. He said, Mom, can we go to the school board? And I'm lecturing at this point. I see the text message. I say, hold on, class, let me see what Trey is talking about. And then he calls me and says, Mom, they cut my hair and they burned me with a hot glue gun. So I said, Trey, why are you calling me and not the teacher? He said, because the teacher told me to go sit down. So I told the class, I'm sorry, I don't know where you're going, but I'm leaving. And so I just left my class there, and I rushed to the school to talk to the principal and everyone who was involved. And I guess I could talk about that part later. But when I got home, I talked to Trey about it. He was like, yeah, it kind of sucks. They cut my hair. And, Trey loved his hair. He was actually growing his hair to donate it when he turned 18. And this year would have been his, he'd be turning 18. So that's kind of stuck in the back of my head. But, we talked about it, and he never mentioned taking his own life. Was he upset? Of course he was upset. But, when he was at home, he was always okay. And that's one of the things that kind of stuck with me. Like, he was just always okay. And it wasn't until I talked to another mom who lost her son a month later, the same way that I lost mine. She said, of course they're okay at home because that's where they're loved. That's where they're cared for. That's when they're seen and heard. But we can't control other kids and other people outside of our home. And sometimes that's a culture shock for them. If they're used to being in a loving home, it's hard for them to deal with 8 hours of being with people who don't have that same love. And like that shook me. I didn't realize, you're right. The majority of the day, my child is at school and I'm not there. Um, so yeah, that's something that I kind of stop and think about. Trey was the type of child that tells me everything. He told me everything, but he never told me that he was thinking about taking his own life. And we were just coming off of Suicide Awareness Month, and we talk about suicide awareness. We had just had a conversation about it, and I was still kind of blindsided by his death.
That was hard to hear. I'm sorry that he experienced those things.
And I think just Jordan's response to that, and just listening to that, like that's really like why we're doing this, because it shouldn't have happened at all to Trey, but it doesn't need to happen to any more children. And it's very hard to sit and, as you're talking about it, and I was just like fighting back tears too, not just because I don't want to cry, because we always say we should cry. Well, not should, we don't want to should, but we welcome tears here. um but as you were speaking, my heart was just breaking, because I'm like, the fact that he could not that he just called you, but he said that he was burnt with a hot glue gun and the teacher just told him to sit down. It's just like she just completely disregarded what happened. Um and that just makes me so angry. I'm sorry, Jordan, you wanted to say something.
No, I thought that was a good point that you brought up. Talked to Rosalynn about him feeling safe at home. I was going to ask you if there was any signs that, um, I guess if he had any resistance toward like going to school, or um, if you noticed anything different in his behavior surrounding school. But it sounds like he was um, pretty transparent with you about what was going on. And it breaks my heart that he didn't get the support that he needed at school, because it didn't have to get to that point.
Did you notice anything, Rosalind, as far as like before he passed away? Just like at like there wasn't any signs, there was nothing that would led you to believe that that was something he was considering?
Just and it just happened so quickly. The incident, that culminating incident, happened on a Friday, and Trey Trey's last night alive was Wednesday. It just happened so fast, but I think it was a number of things that kind of triggered his fall into the sunken place. I always call like hopelessness, like all that is the sunken place. And for the longest, I did not understand how he got to that point. Like I just didn't understand it. Like because Trey, like you tell me everything. You tell me everything. But that's one thing he did not tell me. And I had to learn later on that it was just an impulsive act. It's like so impulsive. And I've learned that a lot of kids who actually do die by suicide, a lot of them don't have plans. A lot of them, have not shared it with anyone. They haven't written anything down. They just felt like at that moment, like they just could not breathe. Kind of like another parent described it as when we think about 9/11, when the planes hit the building and the building's on fire, they know it's going to collapse. And we saw all those people jump to their death. Like they're not thinking about, if I jump, this is going to happen to me. They're thinking about, I'm in danger right now and I need to get away, not realizing when they jump, like that's it. And I had to learn that the hard way during my grief. Because there are some times during my grief, I was like, I can't breathe. No one is helping. No words are comforting me. I'm not getting any answers. I don't understand it. I'm in this sunken place. I cannot see. And and that's when the light bulb went off. And I was like, this is probably what Trey was feeling.
Mm.
This is probably what he was feeling. Because although, when my son died, people were trying to give me all these magical words and nothing helped. So I'm pretty sure Trey was thinking, if I go in there and tell my mom how I'm feeling, she's really not going to get it. She's not going to get it. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But no, the day that the night before he died, he came home singing. He was singing. He was still his regular Trey self. It wasn't until I guess he realized, okay, I got to go back to this place. And I wish he would have just said, Mom, I can't do it. But blah.
Mm-hmm.
What emotions were you experiencing after he passed away?
Oh, initially, um, I can say that the first responders and the police officers were very afraid because they said I just stood there. Whenever the first set of first responders came, at this point, I'm sitting in the closet where Trey died, and I'm holding him. I'm just rocking him. And so the first person came in, and they just burst out crying and said, "I'm just so sorry," and they ran out of the room. The next person came and did the same thing. They had to call a black female police officer to get me out of that closet. And she just came. She said, "All right, Mama, we just gonna have to. We got to come out of this closet." And I laid him down, and I just got up with her, and she brought me outside, and I just stood there, like how movies, like things started going slow motion and everything gets muffled. Like that's how it really was. I felt like I was in a movie, and I just stood there. People are talking to me, and I just stood there. I didn't even realize, and I'm a nurse. When I saw the coroner's van pull up, I'm like, oh, the coroner is here. I just, I was still, I guess, in shock. Um, it didn't really hit me that Trey died until I got to the funeral home. And the funeral director kept talking about the body, the body, the body. And then I'm just sitting there like, what's he talking about? Why does he keep calling Trey the body? He has a name. It's Trey. It's hard spelled backwards. And then he was like, okay. And you know how funeral directors have this transparent, I hate that voice. It's like this calm,
Mm-hmm.
eerie voice. It's like, okay, we're gonna go into the showroom now. And I was like, the showroom? Okay. So I get up, and do you know what the showroom is? It is a room full of caskets. I walked into that room and I lost it. I started screaming and yelling and making a scene. They had to bring me out. I was like, okay, where is my child? Bring me to my son. So they brought me into another room, and Trey was laying on a stretcher. He didn't have on any clothes, and his hair was a loose. The last time I saw Trey, his hair, he had two braids. That was his signature look, his two braids. His hair was taken a loose. He just had like this thin white sheet over him. And I was like, he is cold. What? First of all, why did you touch his hair? Where are his clothes? Can't you see he's cold? And so I got up closer to him, and I just looked at him, and he had frost on his nose and his lips. And I just stared at him. I was like, that's Trey. He's dead. Trey is dead. He died. Like Trey died. And I instantly fell into the sunken place. Like instantly. I was angry. I was sad. I was confused. I was mostly angry though. Because I kept thinking, like, what in the Bible did I not follow for God to take my child from me? Like, what in the Bible did Trey not follow for you not to answer him when he called out to you? Because I know he did, because Trey's Bible was in the closet with him when he died. So I was angry. I was so angry. So to answer your question, how was I feeling? A mixture of emotions. And to this day, I still feel a mixture of emotions.
That makes sense. After my father passed away, definitely felt like a movie. Did not feel real. I completely identify with that. I guess it really hits different for me to talk about this because I've seen the video clip that you posted of your son, and of course, you know, we've posted him on our page, and I've seen his picture, and he just seemed like he was the sweetest boy. Um, Man, I
He
knew this next
was.
part was going to be rough for me, but I'm glad that you have the opportunity to do your work with your foundation to honor his memory. And definitely bring awareness to bullying because this did not have to happen.
We've been doing this podcast for a few months. I don't know if I ever had an episode where I like have a very hard time to talk.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Um, because it's like we've heard the story. Like we were able to do the panel discussion about how to help a loved one. But just sitting here and just talking to you, and I've watched the video, like we've communicated, we've been on video before. I have your cell phone number. We've started to develop a relationship, but just sitting here, it's like I can't even begin to the emotions. It's almost like the emotion that I can't figure out the name or the actual emotion, I should say. I'm having a hard time naming the emotion. But it reminds me of like before you're getting ready to go into like a funeral and your stomach like drops or like it's so like you that's what I'm feeling.
Mhm.
Like your stomach is in knots because you know what you're getting ready to walk into and you just don't want to walk into it. That I don't know what emotion that is, but um, that's what I'm experiencing. And I'm also, as you were talking about Trey, I'm also thinking about my cousin because he was 13. And so, but even outside of that, since this is, your story and your experience, I would like to ask you if you can talk to parents who may have had an experience, whether their child has passed on or not, like what words of encouragement or anything that you would like to tell them.
What I tell parents now is to let my hindsight be your prevention. You know how to say hindsight is 2020. Like people always ask, like, well, what were the signs? And did you miss something? And you know, and I know that comes from a place of wonder. I know that comes from maybe a place of concern. But a lot of time for someone who has actually lost a child, sometimes those words can be very hurtful because it makes parents, especially those of us who have lost a child, it makes us seem like we did something wrong and all we ever did was love our kids. And so, any parent who has a child, whether they are suffering from mental illness or not, because anybody is capable of falling to the sunken place. You don't have to have a mental health diagnosis. You don't have to be bullied. You just have to have an emotion. You have to have a heart. Anybody who has a heart and has emotions has the capability or has unfortunately the ability to fall into the sunken place, and we have to understand that and speak on it. um and as parents, we have to listen, we have to be open, and we have to be ready to hear things that are scary. So whenever Trey did go through bullying, and whenever we did talk about like suicide, I did ask questions like, "Are you okay? Are you thinking about hurting yourself?" And it wasn't until after I took the youth mental health first aid instructor course, and I now know, and even as a nurse, I didn't ask directly, "Are you thinking of taking your own life? Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself?" We kind of dance around it because one, the answer can be scary, and two, in the back of our minds, we're thinking, not our child. And so I can honestly say, even to this day, I'm still like, no, not my child. I'm a nurse. We talk about suicide. I have this open relationship with my kids. We talk. They can tell me anything. So not my child, but it was. Yesterday, it wasn't my child. Today, it's my child. Tomorrow, unfortunately, it could be somebody else's child. So I think the first thing we need to do is stop thinking about it not being able to happen to us or to our child or to somebody we love. So Trey was 13 when he died. He died October 3rd. 10 plus 3 is 13. And when we think about 13, that's such an unlucky number. And so I did not want to, his death was hard enough. I didn't want to associate it with luck or bad luck or negativity, because negativity is what took him away from here. So we want to turn and such a hard and heavy situation. We want to take such a negative number and turn it into something positive. So we have the 13-minute challenge, and we do that on the 13th of every month. And it doesn't have to just be on the 13th of every month. It doesn't have to be just for 13 minutes, but it's a start. And we encourage parents, anybody who interacts with kids, for 13 uninterrupted minutes. That means the cell phone, put it down. If you're, typing an email, stop. Just listen to a child for 13 uninterrupted minutes. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to what they're not saying. And the key thing is listen. Parents kind of want to take lead in conversations. Sometimes we got to let those kids take the lead and just be ready to hear some things that we may not want to hear. And so I'm really a professor. To answer your question, what would I tell parents? Just know that heaviness can seep into your home at any minute. But we have to consistently let kids know that we are here. We have to consistently let kids know that no matter what you tell me, you are not a burden. Whenever you step outside these doors, just know that I'm only a phone call away. You can call me. I am coming, and it's never a burden. It's never too much. And as parents, all we can do is just keep trying. We don't always get it right. We don't have the magical words on all the answers, because if we did, there would be no negativity in our children's lives. Some things we cannot control, but just keep trying and give yourself some grace.
So your organization, or your son's organization, the Trey Thyssen Have a Heart Foundation, could you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to found it and what it means to you to honor your son in this way?
Well, we were a family of service anyway. We were always doing community service. That's just what we did. And Trey was just such an amazing kid. I feel like I owe it to him. And I just want people to, let me backtrack. When Trey died, he went viral the day he died. Like, his picture was all over, and I was mad. I was angry because everybody was talking about the little boy that killed himself. And so I don't want him to be remembered that way. I don't want him to be remembered by his death. I want people to remember his legacy of love. Like, he was planning to donate his hair. All that hair he had, he was planning to donate it. I had a parent tell me, your child was so compassionate, so giving, that my daughter told me she would compliment Trey's hair all the time, and he would find a reason to compliment her. She would say things like, "Oh, Trey, I love your braids." He said, "Oh, well, I love the shirt that you're wearing. Oh, I love the lip gloss that you have on, and you look really pretty in it." Like, he was just that kid. And so I was like, Trey had such a big heart. If people had half the heart that Trey did, maybe we wouldn't have so much bullying. Maybe we wouldn't have so much negativity. And then an old classmate of mine said, you should start an organization, and it should be called the Have a Heart Foundation, because, like, this is predestined. His name was Trey, his heart spelled backwards. He had an amazing heart. We want people to have a heart like him. We want bullying to stop. You need to start a foundation that's going to work towards that. And so we have the Have a Heart Foundation, but I wanted his name to be like at the forefront, because he's the reason. He's the reason why it ever came into play in the first place. And I want people to say his name. You know how we have all these hashtags, say her name or say his name. I never wanted him to be a hashtag, but you're going to remember his name and you're going to remember his legacy of love.
I would agree because as you were saying that, I was smiling because me and Jordan talk about Trey all the time. Remember when I first reached out to you and I had sent I think it was a screenshot. And one, we were just, of course, just like saying like this shouldn't have happened. Like, of course, your initial responses I can't speak for mine was anger and sadness when I, learned about Trey's story. But I will say that Trey has been like, I don't know if he's Black People Die by Suicide too, guardian angel. And I say that because we've talked about the Trey. We talked about the foundation before. I think it was one of our resources. But then we also talked about you before in the podcast. And then, of course, we had the event with Dr. Plummer. Rosalynn was a part of it. And then at our event that we had, our fundraiser, we had a slideshow of individuals who died by suicide. So just thank you for reaching out to us and sharing Trey's story. And we hope that we can just continue to have this partnership, the relationship that we're building, and for allowing us to share Trey's story. We have we have been quite a bit. And so we hope that we can continue to share the message, his message of love, of kindness, of grace, because um, it's even though it is so unfair, I am still extremely grateful that you took something that was so life changing, so altering. Like, yeah, you're here, you're sharing the story, but it's like, your life will never be the same. But despite that, you're still like, you know what, I still want to help make sure that this doesn't happen to another child, that another mom doesn't have to bury her child. Um, and so I just want to thank you and honor you for your bravery and your compassion, because that is a act of love and a act of service, something that you don't have to do, but you're doing it just because. And so I don't know if people tell you that they're proud of you, but I'm going to be the first to say that I'm extremely proud of you, because that is very hard to do. And I think why it stands out to me is because as someone who has attempted, I just have a different story. It just so happened that um my outcome is different, but I can empathize because when I was around Trey's ages, when I started struggling with suicidal thoughts, now I don't know if that was if that was what Trey struggled with, but I do know what it's like to be a child and to be in that moment and not tell anyone. And I think that's why it like strikes me so hard, because I'm like, wow, for a kid to be in such a dark place and not being able to share something is so isolating. Like, it's already hard as an adult, but imagine being a
Right.
child not feeling like you can't go to anyone. So, but yeah, thank you so much for all that you're doing. It really does mean a lot, and you're making a huge difference in the lives of others. And I also want I know people can check the website out, but can you just share a little bit about some of the events that you've had, like, as it relates to the foundation?
So one of our signature events, we actually had it this month. So this month is Trey's Angelversary month. Um, Trey died October 3rd. The first year of his death, we did a balloon release. And I'm going to just say, I hate balloon releases. I don't realize how much I hated them until I participated in one for my son, because he died so quickly. I was like, it reminded me of like a child that loses their balloon. They try to catch it, but they can't, and they just watch it leave. And so at that balloon release, when they released all the balloons, everybody was like, oh, this is so beautiful. And I was like, no, it's not. I'm angry. It reminds me of how fast he got away and I can't catch him. I can't bring him back. So I didn't want to do that anymore. So I still wanted to honor his memory and his life. So I was like, you know what? We're a service family. We're about service. Duh. Why not? So I saw that someone was doing a suicide runway show. So when I looked into it, I was like, so where's the awareness? It's like, oh no, it's the name. I was like, okay, so it's a buzz name. so people can come. Like, no, if we're going to do something, like, do it for real. So I was complaining to everybody about this organization that was doing like a suicide awareness runway, runway show, but it was just the name. And so they say, are you going to complain about it? Or are you going to do something? I was like, oh, well, I'm going to do something. So my kids are models anyway. So we wanted to just use the platform that we had and the networks that we had to bring awareness. So we started the um, Bullying and Suicide Awareness Runway Show. So we get celebrity guests, we get designers from all over the US, and then we get kids from the community. We do a model call and get kids from the community to come and model for real life designers. And we have real life celebrity hosts, and it's free for the kids to participate in. So it it allows them to have the spotlight. It builds confidence. They're like, they feel amazing on that runway show. They feel like celebrities. And so whenever we have something with kids, we know their parents are going to come. We know that uncles and aunts and grandparents are going to come. The community is going to come to watch these kids. So we're like, okay, while you're here, between each designer, we have mental health moments. And we don't just throw out we don't just throw out numbers and statistics. We throw out resources and tips and things that parents can take back with them. And not only do we have like the show, we have vendors as well. And every vendor is some type of community, local or state or national organization that does something for suicide awareness or bullying awareness or even just mental health on family resources. So thank you so much for NAMI. NAMI is always a vendor and a participant. We had the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. We had a lot of local organizations, mental health counselors, just so many people just showed so much love and support that first year. And we just had year 3 this past October 1st. So that's something that we do every year. This year, we added something special. This is Trey would have been a senior in high school. And you know how most parents get to have like, the memorial at the high school graduation. I'm not going to get to have that because Trey never made it to high school. So we had the very opening was a graduation march. And so we had t-shirts made. It had Have a Heart on the back with the number 13 and the graduation cap on it. And the very first walk was to Pomp and Circumstance. Of course, the bounce mix because we're from Louisiana. But
Love it.
so we had that, and then Tiva came. She was the last person. She had a picture of Trey. So that was my way of honoring. This would have been his senior year. He's not going to get to walk, and I wanted to see that. So that was his walk. We do a lot of youth panels, youth led panels. Um, for his birthday, we do a Share Your Heart paint party where the kids paint different hearts, and we donate those paintings to hospice patients. We did that the very first time during COVID because they couldn't have visitors and stuff, so we brought love to them. So we painted hearts and brought it to them. We had World Kindness Day is November 13th. And we have in the past, we had big heart signs, like yard signs, and it says, "You've been hearted." And so what people would do, it's kind of like candygrams. People would order them and put the address of the person they wanted to go to. And it was so fun. Me and my kids would be driving around Baton Rouge, putting these signs in people's in people's yards. And they come out and like, "Oh my God, I've been hearted." So that was really nice. And so that's just some of the stuff that we do. Of course, we go all over to speak, speaking at different schools. And my kids speak as well because sometimes it's just different hearing it from a kid, especially when Trey's little sister Tiva is telling a group of high schoolers, "If you're a bully, please stop because bullies took my brother away from me." So that's just some of the things that we do. We just want to put hope back into our community, and our focus is on kids and anybody who interacts with kids.
I think the work that you're doing with your foundation and your family is so beautiful. We need organizations like this to just give people hope and a little bit of love. And I definitely agree that you all are a family of service, and that is a beautiful thing. bless you for everything that you do to bring awareness to suicide prevention. Like T-Kea mentioned, I never had a suicide attempt, but I've been very, very close. I just happen to have a different outcome. So I appreciate everything that you're doing to bring awareness to the issue, and especially in our community.
I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about my son. Anytime I can talk about him is a blessing to me because I miss him. I miss him. There are sometimes, even after our act of service or our runway show and stuff, everybody leaves inspired. And I don't think people realize that I still go home empty. I still go home empty. Um, so every day is different. Some days I'm like super, super motivated. And then some days I'm like, yeah, that's great for you, but my child is still gone. Like this doesn't help me. Like this doesn't help me. But then I went to church one day and I heard the pastor say, the fruit on the tree isn't for the tree. The fruit on the tree isn't for the tree. So I guess this is God's way of showing me the difference between a wish and hope. You know, I wish that Trey would have never died. I wish that Trey was never bullied. But, you know, we get so caught up in wishes from like Disney that you don't realize that sometimes wishes may fail you. Sometimes wishes may never come true. But there is hope, and hope is everlasting. So I had to shift gears from wishing to hope. So it is my hope that by sharing Trey's story and sharing my pain, because y'all, like some days I look like I am okay, but no, like this hurts every single day. So it's my hope that by sharing my pain and sharing my son, because you know I'm very protective of my kids, even in Trey's death, I'm still protective. So by sharing my son and being transparent, it's my hope that this doesn't have to happen again. It's my hope that people will remember Trey as not just a little boy that killed himself, but the little boy that inspired change. So that's my hope, and I appreciate everybody that's been supportive. I appreciate both of you because it's people like you that keep me going because I'm not strong at all. I promise you, I'm not. I'm not strong. I'm not. But resiliency comes in knowing that I have people that are out there supporting me and my family. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you.
Your son's love lives on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. Like I don't know how much I can say thank you, but just we're both very appreciative, and I honestly look forward to what's to come in turn. Well, we're going to be at the next.
Oh yes, we're gonna come to Baton Rouge.
Yes.
Oh wait, so wait, pause. So are you saying that you're going to host the fourth annual Bullying and Suicide Awareness Runway Show?
I
I
mean,
felt like that's what I heard in my spirit. I felt it.
come on. We got it. We go ahead and block it off the calendar.
We're marking it off.
Right. Black people die by suicide too.
Thanks, Baton Rouge.
There we go.
Okay.
So before you go, Rosalynn, are there any last words that you would like to say to anyone listening?
Yes. I want to say what I wish Trey knew, and that is tomorrow gets better. That's a promise that tomorrow gets better. But the only way you're going to be able to experience that tomorrow is if you're here. So tomorrow gets better. Just please be here tomorrow.
So, as you all know, for every episode, we like to highlight someone who has passed away from suicide. This is our way of keeping the memory of that person alive. And today we have Jamari Terrell Williams. He was a fifth grade student from Montgomery, Alabama. He died by suicide on October 10th of 2017 at the age of 10. And his situation is pretty similar to Trey's, in that he also had family that sort of fought to advocate for him after his death. And as a result of that, the Jamari Terrell Williams Student Harassment Act was passed in Alabama to help fight against cyberbullying and then also bullying in person on and off school campuses. So you can learn more about Jamari Terrell Williams at his family organization, which is jamariterrellwilliams.org, and it'll be in the show notes.
It's just something about, it's like, even though we do this work, there are moments where it gets heavy. I feel like majority of the time I'm okay, but sometimes just listen to the stories that, children or people who have passed, it does like sit with you. And I think for me, because I know what it's like to be in that moment and to act on it, the only difference for me is that I had a different outcome. My attempt just didn't go through.
Right.
So sometimes just listening to that, it just strikes a chord with me. And not just because of hearing it, but because of the nature of the work that we're doing, people reach out to us more now, like whether it's through social media or emails or personal people in my life who see, what I'm doing or what we're doing, and they'll call or text. And it's some days it's just like, I'm grateful that I can do this work. It's something that I'm passionate about. But there are moments where it gets heavy.
Yeah. And it's always hard when it's, a child. And I can think of Jamari because as I was, doing some research for him, apparently he loved to dance. So there's this picture of him. It's so adorable. He has like his trophies that he won at this competition. And it's just like, man.
And was he 8 years
He
old?
was 10.
10.
Only 10. Yep. He was a 5th grade student.
Yeah. So y'all we got to do some, the work that we're doing. We got to save our babies because they are definitely hurting. So we take this moment to honor and remember Jamari.
Yes.
So for our next segment is the resource segment. So if you're new here, every episode we're going to highlight a resource because that's what we do here. We providing a safe space, we're providing hope, but we're also going to make sure you got the resources so that you can help you along your mental health journey. So we're highlighting the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also known as NAMI. They have their teen and young adult helpline. It's a free nationwide peer support service. It provides information, referrals, and supports to teens who are struggling. And it says oh, that's the abbreviated version. I was like,
yeah, sorry.
So you don't, me and Jordan, we have notes for the podcast because we want to make sure we stay on track. So I was sitting here looking, I said, girl, what is this? So yes, the teen and young adult helpline, they have specialists who are trained young people to they know what it's like. We did an episode on peer support. So these are young adults or teens who are also peer support specialists, and they're trained to provide that empathetic ear. Sometimes adults be tripping. They forget what it was like to be
Right.
to be a kid and to be a teenager. So sometimes, not many times, kids do go to their peers first before going to adults. So I'll also have to add in another resource to that as well. But they have the hotline. It's available from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Monday through Friday. And you can text friend to 62640. Again, that's friend to 62640. Or you can call 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-6264. Or you can check out NAMI.org to chat online. And then we'll also leave that link and that number in the show notes. So if you're a young adult or a teen, or you know a young adult or a teen, please provide that resource for them. And then there was another resource that came. Oh, that's what it was. I was going to forget. So Teen Mental Health First Aid is an awesome evidence-based training. It actually teaches teens, of course, in high school, how to assist their peers. So they are the ones that are providing that peer support, but they're also, the training teaches them how to recognize signs and symptoms and best ways to provide support. Because again, as I mentioned, many times teenagers, they will go to their peers first. So now the National Council on Mental Wellbeing, who created Mental Health First Aid, they have a teen module now for high schoolers to take. So I'll also make sure that we leave that in the show notes as well.
Yes, we always want to leave you all with some resources because, as we know, as Black people, sometimes it feels like we're out here alone, but there's actually quite a lot of resources out there available for us. And we definitely want to highlight anything that's out there for teens, kids, young adults, because we definitely want to reach that population.
Especially Black people. We're trying to be. Black people die by suicide too. We're for us by us. But there are other tons of mental health resources for us by us. But we like to highlight all resources. But again, there are many times we feel more comfortable in spaces of people who look like us. So we try to provide those resources as well.
Yes, and speaking of which, we're going to roll over into our community Changemaker segment, which is where we highlight someone who is doing amazing work in the space of mental health, particularly mental health that affects Black people. And we have a Changemaker who's doing just that. So this is Dr. Earl Turner. He's a licensed psychologist, author, speaker, and professor. And he founded Therapy for Black Kids. And it's an organization whose mission is to offer educational information and resources to parents to promote healthy emotional development and resilience among Black children, teens, and their families. So this is one, again, geared toward kids, youth, that specifically caters to people that look like us. So that's fantastic. Shout out to Dr. Earl for doing that. And you can follow him on Instagram at Dr. Earl Turner. And you can follow Therapy for Black Kids on Instagram at Therapy for Black Kids.
Yes, one of our favorite segments is here. It is upon us. It is the self-care segment. So if you're new here, y'all, we check in, not just the check-in in the beginning of the show, but towards the end of the episode, we like to talk about self-care in terms of what we're doing or what we plan to do. And I am huge on talking about self-care is much more than getting our eyelashes done and wearing those wonderful lace fronts for some people, the nails done, the toes done, all of those things that make us feel good on the outside. And that is great. We should take care of ourselves externally. But what good is that if we're broken inside, if we're feeling depressed? Those things can only do but so much. So we want to make sure that what we're showing on the outside, we want to make sure that it matches what's going on in the inside. I think many times we do a great job at masking the exterior. So for the self-care segment, oftentimes me and Jordan will talk about things that we're doing. In many cases, it doesn't really have much to do with our exterior. And that's not to say that getting your hair done and your nails done is not, because trust me, I love doing all of those things. But I just want to make sure that I'm not neglecting my mental health and focusing so much on the physical. So with that being said, Jordan, what you got going on for self-care?
So I got on the scale the other day, you guys. This is full transparency. And I gained about a good 7 pounds or something. And I'll tell you why. So I've been eating a lot of sugar as comfort. And I know that's not a healthy thing for me to do. There's nothing wrong with having things that are sweet, but it's important to do that sort of in moderation, just for your health, your blood sugar, etc. And I've been doing the exact opposite of that. So I'm trying to switch over from eating fewer like candy, cookies, things like that to fruit. So today I'm so proud of myself. I went to Costco and I actually put T-Kea onto these. I got some golden kiwis.
I bought some today.
Man, listen. I had 2 golden kiwis before I came and they were so good. I'm like, you know what? I can enjoy sugar, but you can get sugar through healthier means than like candy and cookies. So I got some grapes that were bussin', some apples that were bussin', some kiwis that were amazing. If you haven't tried the golden kiwis, I highly recommend them.
Yes.
They're sweeter than the green ones. So If you're looking to change up your kiwis, definitely check out the golden ones because they're good. T-Kea can vouch.
Yes, it's one day. Were we on? I don't know if
We were in Walmart.
No, we were in Walmart, but I don't remember if I was talking to you. I don't remember if I was talking to you on the phone or not. I can't remember, but I I can't remember if I was talking, but I know when I first tried it, right? I had cut it open and I ate it and I started dancing because like if I like food, right? I like eating. And when something tastes good, like I just do a dance all the time at home. Before we was recording, I was eating that empanada and I was just doing a little shimmy. Y'all, I love to eat, okay? So those kiwis, they are simply amazing. And y'all hold me accountable, Jordan, because I keep talking out of the mic and the producer and engineer over here like T-Kea talking to the mic. T-Kea is talking into the mic. Um but for self-care for me, I am sitting here thinking like um so one of the things I'm planning to do as it relates to self-care is also travel is a part of self-care as well. Um and for me, I have noticed that like self-care for me is I do my best to practice it every single day. Like the smallest thing, whether it's taking a walk or doing deep breathing, some like just working out. But those are things that I do every day, but then I still feel like there's some like the cherry on top, and I feel like traveling is like the cherry on top, if that makes sense. Cuz I mean, traveling is great for our mental health, but I also think that sometimes it's not, depending on what your budget is and where you are in the socioeconomic status, traveling may not be feasible every day. Um, but I do enjoy traveling, as do Jordan. And so for me, it's just like the sprinkle on the top. And so I'm planning to go visit a friend in California, a fellow bison, HU, you know. Okay.
The real HU.
The real
As I
one.
say every time she brings
That's
this up.
right. Y'all institutors over there. But yeah, so I'm very excited. I'm going to see my Howard sister, and she lives in California. So that is going to be a form of self-care. She's one of those friends that I feel so proud of. I'd be like, "Oh, my friend's an attorney. Oh, she's an attorney." So but yeah, she's great. She's always been a great support to me, and I'm just looking forward to like spending time with her and hanging out and catching up because we don't get to talk as often or see as often because she's on the opposite coast. So that is my self-care.
Yes, we love travel. Shout out to California. I haven't been to California in, what's this? 2020. What is this?
2024.
2024. Man, I haven't been to California. You know what? I have not been to California since 2014.
Ooh, that's a whole 10 years.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Is that what year this is? Yeah, so it's absolutely beautiful over there. I hope you have a great time.
Yes, California is, I lived there briefly after I graduated from undergrad, and I love California. I haven't been to all the states, but I would definitely say that California is at least number one as of now. I did see Denver. Denver is beautiful, but I love California. It's just, even as a kid, I didn't even know what California, I just know what I saw on TV. And I was just like, oh my gosh, in my head at 8 years old, I was like, I need to live in California in a gated community. At 8, what did I know about California in a gated community? I don't know. But for some reason I did. And then when I went to California, I was just like, oh my gosh. I always say I'm a Jersey girl, by birth, but I think I'm a Cali girl at heart. So I do. That's definitely one of my top states. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I want to live there, but man,
It's expensive.
those rent prices, those mortgages. I'm just like, oh no, I don't know. But shout out to us for our self-care. We're gonna get some things done
and encourage our listeners, y'all.
Yes.
What are y'all doing for self-care? I gotta encourage y'all just do one thing. It don't gotta be so elaborate. We had an entire episode on self-care. It ain't even gotta be that elaborate, y'all.
Yes.
Like small things, like Jordan talks about how for a long time you was just focused on getting enough water, like
Right.
drinking water, like that's, you have to stay hydrated. That's self-care. Eating, sleeping, like that's self-care. It's the small things that we got to make sure that we do daily so that we can stay well. And I think it's important that we realize self-care can also be, if we practice it intentionally every single day, it could be a preventative
Yeah,
from the stuff hitting the fan.
absolutely. So for our moment of inspiration, we always like to leave you all with a little bit of a little positivity, something to look forward to. I got a quote from Therapy for Black Kids on their wonderful Instagram page. Teach your kids that it's okay to have bad days and ask for support. Let's normalize mental health days just like sick days. Love it.
Yeah, man. That you know I can't even get it out. My mind is like zzz. So I was why you know how like back in, I don't know if they still do it now, but like back in the day they used to have like perfect attendance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to someone online and we talked about how like while I do not have children, if I was a parent, I would not. And I knew someone growing up, like they never missed a day of school from kindergarten to 12th grade. Never missed one day. That was not me. But I say that to say I don't like having the perfect attendance awards because it teaches it. We live in a capitalistic society. We live in America, so that's kind of how it is. But I think it teaches children that like they don't deserve a break, or like it's okay, like don't take a, it's like, oh, if you're sick don't come to school, but if you're struggling emotionally, like, oh, you still come to school. I just feel like it goes against as it relates to like encouraging children to take care of their mental health, and by simply giving kids for never missing a day of school, like what messaging are you sending to children, especially for kids who be like, oh, I wasn't feeling well, wasn't able to come to school. But I don't know, I just think that really gets it just I can't explain it how I want to explain it, but essentially I just don't think that's a good award that we should be giving kids.
It does make you wonder why that's even a thing.
Right.
Because I mean, children get sick all the time. Children need breaks, and what's the point? Oh, I never thought about that. I think I've only received perfect attendance one time in my life. Like in Maryland, we do quarters instead of semesters.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did it one time. I guess that is. I never thought about that.
Right, because if you think about it, if kids are getting perfect attendance, like what messaging are you sending to them? It's okay to not take a break. Yeah.
That just gave me something to think about.
Yeah, so let's abolish perfect attendance award. Kids need, as I say, brain breaks or mental health days. Children need that. So let's just go away with not taking breaks. And I think that literally like grooms children into thinking about when we become adults. Oh, I can't miss a day of work. I got to go to work. Even if I'm sick, oh, I got to go to work. Like, and where do you think it started from? Kids not missing a day of school. Now you thinking, oh, I can't miss a day of work. So yeah, just perfect attendance words. Just throw them out.
Give the babies a break.
Yes.
Let's normalize mental health days like we normalize sick days for
Yes.
kids and adults.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Black People Die by Suicide 2 podcast. And thank you so much for supporting us. And we will catch y'all on the next episode.